Okay, let's get into this one right here. Well, the NBA schedule for 25-26 season has came out. And wow, I'm kind of impressed. Kind of impressed with the NBA, and they're acting like they got some kind of sense. Wow. So let's look at the infamous Lakers and look at their schedule, because I kind of looked at the Cavs schedule too, because I said something earlier about, I didn't think, LeBron James would make it through the season with this schedule. I thought the Cavs had an easier schedule, but overall they really don't when I went back and looked at it. So we won't go back and look at the Cavs schedule, because it's basically like the Lakers. Now, to me, it's an easy schedule, but it's a grinding schedule. They're not having, all these 3 and 4 and 5 days off like that. I think I want to say it was like 12 to 14 back-to-backs, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll look at that in a minute. But as far as the opponents in the competition is very weak. It's very weak. So we'll get to that in a minute. Let me say this, because I was watching Sports and Fitness Rants. I was watching his channel, and he did a video about Michael Jordan being the greatest player of the century. I think it was NBA. Was it NBA only? I forget. I thought it was. I want to say it was the NBA, right? Did they single him out in the categories? The greatest NBA player of the century, if I'm not mistaken. I guess you could do greatest sports player of the century, but I thought you said basketball player of the century. Nevertheless, whatever it was, he basically, the whole point of the video was Michael Jordan being humble when he got the award, and he didn't talk about anybody but him. He didn't talk about himself, and he talked about everyone else. When he got this award, I think he was talking about Kareem and Jerry West and Bob Cousy and who was it, Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell. These guys like that they basically paved the way. And, if it wasn't for them, he wouldn't be there. He's just, things like that. You got to go watch the video. It's a real good video. But the point is, he didn't mention himself at all, his career at all, as far as, what he did, everything like that. And anything. It was just all about the past players, giving them props. And if it wasn't for them, he wouldn't be where he was. He wouldn't be receiving this award right now. And, the video also, Sports and Fitness Rants talked about how, this is how it was back in the day. You gave props to the guys that came before you. It made it possible. And it was in reference to, LeBron James era guys. Now they just piss in the eyes of past players. And, we got to understand why this is. It's because of two things. Now it's because of the money. Everything is about money. Everybody needs money. Everything's so expensive. There's no truth being told. Even if they know it's a lie, you can make more money just flat out lying than making money telling the truth. That's just how it is. And we all know that, we talked about in the video the other day, Shannon Sharp and the Nick Wrights and these type of guys set the standard to where you can make all this money telling lies, and it's okay. You can still have a job at what we consider the greatest sports network of all time, ESPN. You can have a job lying. That was unheard of back in the day, how professional ESPN was and how it had all the credibility. But, they stopped caring about credibility. They stopped caring about the truth. They stopped caring about the fans. They stopped caring about, professionalism on a professional level. It just don't exist no more. So now, these people, these debate shows, these ex-NBA players, they need money. So now they have to act like these cartoon characters. They have to act like these characters. They got to be funny to make this money. Also, let's remember, we talk about Kobe. He was the 2000s, right? Shaq had a chance. Even Shaq had a chance to be the greatest of all time. So basically, you had a combination of the 60s, Russell and Wilt. They were like the 60s. You can't just say Russell was, because, his teams were loaded. It was more of a team effort and stuff like that. And Wilt Chamberlain was the most dominant player in the 60s. And then you had the 70s. Some people say a combination of Kareem and Dr. J. And then we get into the 80s. We got Bird. We got Magic, who were the dominant players in that era. And then, basically you have Michael Jordan by himself in the 90s as the most dominant. Not to discredit any of those other guys who were great in those eras, but I'm just talking about basically the face of the league. And then we get into the 2000s. You know, it's a mix between Shaq and Kobe, but realistically, Kobe capped it off, and it was the 2000s was his era, right? We talked about him winning the championship in 2000, 2009, and 2010. That's crazy. The beginning of a decade, the end of a decade, and the beginning of a decade again, with the least amount of help of any superstar of all time. I mean, I guess you could say, Hakeem is up there, but he did have a top 75 on the second one, on the second championship. So why this is like it is, another reason is because we know about Kobe in the 2000s. So LeBron James was supposed to take the torch and carry on that greatness. He was unable to do it. He was just unable to do it. Like I said, I was just talking to somebody, one of my subs, he said he wished he can go back to the 90s or even the 2000s. I said, I'm cool with the 2000s. It was great. And I just wonder why pop culture didn't carry on the torch from the 2000s and keep it going. Whether it's movies, music, sitcom, all this different type of stuff, comedy, it just all seemed to like die out. They just went a whole different direction of what the 2000s was doing. So because the 2000s were taking the torch from the 90s, that's all they were doing. And they try to enhance pop culture in the 2000s. Once we got to the 2010s, it's like, where are you guys going? You're going the wrong way. What are we doing? What are we doing? It just try to make up its own pop culture out of nowhere. And as you always go into another decade, you can really hear the sound of the last decade. You know what I'm saying? And then by the time you get to the middle of the decade, you kind of like got its own sound of that decade. And then at the end of the decade, boom, you could hear the next decade sound going into that next decade, if you know what I mean. But the 2000s, the 2010s, even though they start making a new sound going in, or culture going into the 2010s, it was like, what the hell is this though? But you're supposed to, I can't even explain it, man. It just started to be so low budget and things like everything. So it just coincides with the whole LeBron James era, right? He's part of that pop culture going into the 2010s. In cheating, doing it wrong, running, and stuff like that. I listened to FYF. I said, can I get through this for like 5-10 minutes, right? Because he was doing it live yesterday. I guess he said 18. Wait, I forget what the video was all about. It was some stupid, like always. It was basically hating on LeBron James. And they were trying to detail, at the time when I came in there, I was only in there for 5 minutes. It's painful to listen to this guy because he don't ever get to no point, because he can't get to the point of the truth, because it is so much stuff he got to say, because it's all a lie. So he just got to make up a whole bunch of stuff before he even gets to the point. But he was talking about, how LeBron James was forced to go to Miami because Cleveland didn't do nothing for him. What else they got to do for him in the weakest East of all time? He went to the finals after only being in the playoffs one damn time. That's a weak era. You know what I'm saying? We talked about this the other day. Michael Jordan couldn't be going to the finals after only being in the playoffs one time and missing the playoffs his first 2 seasons. That would be impossible. That would be like Michael Jordan being in the being in the finals in '88. What? Well, 88. But well, I guess he could, right? Ain't that when Pippen saved him? Wow, Pippen couldn't get him to the finals in '88. So the Cavs didn't do nothing for him. He started throwing out all these names that they didn't go get, and it's irrelevant. Whatever the case is, even if we believe it, and he's saying that Boston built this super team, blah, 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 the old mighty Boston Celtics that went to the finals, won 1 championship, and was together 6 years. It was breaking down. Boston beat them. Oh, not Boston. Orlando beat them one time. They got beat by Kobe in the finals. Yes, they did beat Kobe one time. But they were like 12, 13, 14 years into their career. They never won an MVP together. They only had the number 1 seed one time together. LeBron James took it to a Game 7, 2008. If he would have just shot, oh my God, 48% from the field, they would have won that series. So, okay, he was talking about they could have got Chris Paul, whatever. He left. Let's just say he didn't have no help. I don't know how he got the number 1 seed 2 years in a row, because now you're looking stupid. You got the number 1 seed over this big, mighty Boston team 2 years in a row, and you got the MVP over them. Not one of them from this mighty Boston super team that was so great couldn't peel off an MVP. But LeBron James did in back-to-back seasons and had the best record in the NBA, not just the East, the NBA in back-to-back seasons. See how stupid this guy sounds? Okay, let's push all that to the side. You need help. That's what he's saying. They didn't bring this guy. They brought over old ass Wally Zerbiak, old ass Ben Wallace, old ass Shaq. They brought in all these old guys that got the number one. How did they get the number one seed with all these old guys? In Boston could get the number one seed, and it was 09 and 010, and they had 3 top 75 guys. 09, they had the 3 seed. No, hold on. No. I don't know what they had. I think I think they might have had the 2 seed, but I know 04 they had the 4th. 2010 they had the 4 seed. So it's just an array of excuses that they just make up, but they look dumb when you look at the overall picture. They're just like contradicting a lot of stuff that they say. So okay, you didn't have enough help, even though you had the number 1 seed over them 2 years in a row. You didn't have enough help. Okay, you go play with Chris Bosh. I mean, not Chris Bosh. You go play with Dwayne Wade. They try to make it seem like he just went to Miami and played with Wade. No, he went and got Bosh too, because he got all these shortcomings. He went and got Bosh, rearranged the whole damn team. He just couldn't I'm going to play with Wade. No. Same thing when he went back to Cleveland. Let me just go play with Kyrie. Nope. Let's bring Love too. Because he tried to argue that point. Oh, the man just wanted to go back home to Cleveland. He just wanted to go back. So why he didn't go back home and just play with Kyrie? Why he didn't go back to play with Kyrie with that same team that was there? He not only got played with Kyrie and Love, he rearranged the whole damn team again with a lot of players, again, like I always say, who could be number 2s on other teams, right? The whole damn staff, the whole damn team could be number 2s, just like in Miami. A lot of those guys could be number 2 options on other teams. Even he said something about they let Carlos Boozer go because they didn't want to pay him or something like that. It was like, what? LeBron James couldn't play with Carlos Boozer. Carlos Boozer wasn't a spot-up shooter, because that's how, even when he back in Cleveland, you had to be a spot-up shooter. So when he drove, you had to be out on the perimeter. He even put El Galskis on the perimeter a lot of times, or away from the basket. Anyways, what happened when he went to Miami, and let's just say the entire 2-10s, it didn't work out. It didn't work out the way it was supposed to. Remember, 8 straight trips to the finals and only won 3. Only won 3 finals. So now you just have a void, a gap in the NBA greatness. Because Kobe left off, LeBron James was supposed to grab that and carry on the greatness. It never happened. So now you have a lot of guys podcasting, a lot of guys, in the 2-10s, a lot of dummies saying a whole bunch of dumb stuff that either played in the 2-10s or playing in the 2020s, because what they know is the NBA died in the 2-10s. There's no greatness to talk about. There's no greatness. Nope. There's no greatness. You came out them 2-10s 3-5. What? Why you did it wrong? Because they always say, "Oh, look at what the Celtics had in the '80s. Look at what the Lakers had. Look what the Bulls had. Look what this team had." And then when you look at what Spurs had, but when you look at it, you see the core guys coming from the draft. That's all you see. You see it with the Bulls' first 3-peat draft. You see it with even the second 3-peat. The Pippen and the Robin, guess what? They're not leaders of another team. What team did they lead? What number 1 options were they the number 1 franchise players on what team were they leaders? Because we already know Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving, all franchise players and leaders of other teams. I remember Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Pippen, Tony Kukoc, Rodman, who was it? Draymond Green, Clay, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker. Never remember these guys leading another team or leading a team. I never remember it. Yes, you could say Magic in a sense, but you got to remember, once Magic came, I would say it was still Kareem's team. Okay, Magic wasn't even starting at point guard. He was starting, but he wasn't even He wasn't even first team All NBA, nothing like that. He was great his first season, but it was still Kareem's team. And what would we say? That was 10, 11 years into his career for Kareem when Magic came. So even by the time Magic did start to be the leader of that team, Kareem is like 12, 13 years into the league. He's out of his prime. Magic came from the draft. Worthy came from the draft. Cooper came from the all these guys came from the draft. Where are LeBron James all-time great guys that came from the draft that he played with? Nope, can't say it. Okay, you added a Robin. Okay, that's just an add-on piece to do some dirty work, right? To defend, rebound. That's not a 20-point scorer like Chris Bosh that was leading the team, or a Kyrie that was leading the team, or a Love that was leading the team, or a Wade that was leading the team. Kevin McHale wasn't leading no team. Came from the draft. Robert Parrish wasn't leading no team. He was just a piece. Well, again, Ginobili wasn't leading no team. Well, oh yeah, he led the Argentinians past LeBron James. Six man. Yeah. Tony Parker wasn't leading no team, man. What team did he lead before Duncan? These are guys from the draft. Nevertheless, the 210s, it got messed up, man. It messed up everything because these guys did it wrong. It didn't happen. You know, LeBron James didn't carry on the torch from Kobe's legacy that Kobe, you know, I mean, I guess you could say Duncan and Kobe in that era. Pick which one you want. I would say Kobe because he took matters in his own hand. He took matters in his own hand. But you could throw Duncan in there too. I would put Duncan in that area with Shaq. That's where I would put Duncan. Because, you know, I would say Kobe was more. Duncan didn't go back to back. With all that help, Duncan never went back to back. I don't know, man. You never went back to back with all that help. And Kobe was able to do it. With one Hall of Famer was able to go back to back. As a matter of fact, he went to three straight finals. Duncan never went to 3 straight finals and then won back to back. So we just can't put Duncan in that class, man. Duncan is great, but he's not. He ain't in the Kobe class. He never took it upon himself to say, "Oh, I'm gonna be a great scorer and I'm gonna dominate." No, Tim Duncan is just more of that all-around player, great player, but not on Kobe's level. I don't think so. A lot of people, you know, look at this and look at that. It's just not like that. So the whole thing, you know, they're screwed now. The 210s got messed up, and you know, a lot of people are. That's why they're trying to defend LeBron James, because he screwed up the game. And not only that, he didn't come out on top. You did it the wrong way, and he didn't even come out on top. That's the worst part. Well, that's the worst part for him. But for the NBA, they let him cheat and do it wrong, and it kind of messed up, you know, what the greatness was coming down the line. So let's look at this. Oh, also, I was watching the Sunday panel, and they were talking about some guy came on there, Sports and Fitness Rants and AOH, and they said LeBron James and Kobe was never friends. And LeBron James, he lying. He don't care about Kobe. He never talked to him. They would never be friends. And I was like, nah, I can't agree on that. Kobe said many times they were good friends. Kobe said many times. So I got to take Kobe's word for it. The thing is, what people don't understand is now, because LeBron James, you got to understand his career, right? If you just go into it and you're pissed off and, you know, just take what's on the surface, you ain't understanding what's going on. LeBron James, he had to become a villain to win. And basically, Kobe even said this. He's a nice guy. He wants everybody to like him. You know, Kobe said, I'm not like that. You know, I'm going to speak my mind. I don't care who likes it. I'm going to take the last shot. Even if I miss, I'm not giving it to such and such. And, you know, LeBron James will dish it off because he don't want to get the heat, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, like I said, LeBron James is basically playing a character. He got a choice to make. Am I going to stay in Cleveland and win no championships? Or am I going to go and build these super teams, win some championships, and get the media to lie for it? Because after Kobe, the media has to make money. They have to have something to talk about with these debate shows, blah, blah, blah. So they covered him. They covered his ass with him cheating and doing it the wrong way. That's all they had. They didn't. That's what they put their money on. That's what they put their time and effort and script on, LeBron James, to be the next one up. So again, they covered him, his butt, and didn't say a whole bunch of stuff about him. They still don't today, like they should. But like I said, he had a choice to either stay there in Cleveland and basically win those championships, because it don't matter who was coming out the West. Remember, we talked about this the first time we went to the finals. He got spooked. He got shell shocked on that stage because he had been playing, you've been playing in the East, which is an intramural league, and now you're coming to play the West in the finals. The West is battling each other all the time. They're the West. So they're playing high level basketball just to win against each other. And then the East, it's not like that. So he went to the finals. He got his butt whooped, shell shocked, everything like that. He wasn't going back to the finals. He won. We already found that out. It didn't matter if Kobe was going to be there. Dirk, he did play Dirk in the finals. He got to have that super team. Like I said, Steve Nash and Stoudemire was going to be there, or whoever was going to be there from the West. Tim Duncan, he already got a taste of that. He was going to get whooped. It don't matter who he rolled up in there with. That's why I said he couldn't just go play with Wade. He needed more than that, because he's the problem why they can't win. So he's got to get two other superstars. Chris Bosh was a superstar. Chris Bosh was so good, he was on the first Olympic team, the second Olympic team, or the first Olympic team, the FIBA team, and then the Redeem team. Chris Bosh was that dude. So he made the choice, like I said, to be the villain when he was always the good guy. Like Kobe tried to tell you. I know him, we're good friends. He wants to be liked by everybody. He's a good guy. He ain't a killer. He just wants to play basketball, right? And yes, he's a good basketball player and one of the greats back then, but he can't close the deal. We done heard that a million times. He can't close the deal. He's not a shooter. Not even on free throw line. He's not like that. So again, we're going to talk about the schedule, but this is what people don't understand. He chose to play the villain role to win championships and keep the NBA afloat, because they weren't going to be able to keep the NBA afloat with, some of these personalities like Tim Duncan and whoever was going to win. If it wasn't him, whoever was going to win out the West, Dirk Nowitzki, Tim Duncan, they weren't going to be able to keep the league afloat with those type of personalities, right? Maybe if Steve Nash would have won, whoever was in that West. They wanted LeBron James, his persona, his personality, the guy they've been pushing. So they basically had his back on letting him cheat. And this is a choice he made, to be a villain, to win, 1 championship, 4 championships, whatever it was. That's a choice he made. And the media was like, I guess it was like they came together, the media, the NBA, ESPN, whatever. Okay, if you go play with these guys, we got your back. We ain't going to criticize you. We ain't going to. We already told you, there was no pushback. You think something like that, right? You got owners, coaches, players, they ain't pushing back on something like that? All 3 of these guys built up on a super team in their prime. See, the East wasn't no problem. They took the power out of the East, but the East really wasn't no problem for LeBron James. We already know that. It was the West. Even Dwayne Wade said that. Kobe was winning all these championships. And if it wasn't going to be Kobe, it was going to be Tim Duncan, it was going to be Dirk, whatever like that. He got a taste of that when he went to the 11 finals and got spanked. So that's just what we're looking at. But what I'm trying to say is Kobe and LeBron James were good friends. Good friends. Only the stuff that LeBron James is doing right now, not going to Kobe's unveiling of the statue, his funeral, he's doing that to piss people off, right? To get the social media to talk about him. That's all he got, really. He don't have a championship resume. He ain't a leader. He ain't a clutch player. He don't do nothing on the high level. Shoot the 3, give you paint work, good free throw shooter, good mid-range shooter, a leader. Nothing. He ain't really got nothing to give you, folks. Don't rebound. He can't give you 10 rebounds a game. Can't average 10 assists a game. Nothing. He ain't got nothing to give you but some character that he's playing. So, right, what he been doing, pissing everybody off. Let me get on social media, type this. Let me walk out the game early. Let me say this stupid. He wins. He wins. You think he loses, but he wins. He really already lost by going to Miami. That's when it was over then. But again, the media won't criticize this stuff because they need a job. If they would have criticized that from day one, and it was the real sports media, like they, act like they are, he would have been done. That would have been it. They would have ridiculed him. None of those championships would have counted. All this stuff, it would have been over. They would have been, we ain't counting those championships. You did this, you did that, blah, blah, blah. You're bragging on TV, this and that. They weren't saying that because they needed a job, folks. And like I said, he just didn't carry the torch. He was the next up. He didn't carry the torch. He didn't have what it took. like a Kobe Bryant, like a Michael Jordan, like, these guys in the past, he couldn't do it. So now he's been giving you since Miami a character that he's not, a cartoon character. He don't care if you call him dumb. He don't care if you call him selfish. He don't care if you call him a loser. He don't care what you call him. He's getting paid. And he's been getting paid. And the media is in bed with it. The NBA is in bed with it. That's all they got. They don't have a Kobe. They didn't have a Kobe Bryant moving forward. Kobe was done. They didn't have a Michael Jordan. They didn't have none of these guys. So whatever this guy want to do with his image, the media will push it. But yeah, him and Kobe are really good friends. From, out the mouth of Kobe several times, him talking about LeBron James. Really good friends and all this stuff. Because at first, I really wasn't like deep into a lot of this stuff. You just get like mad because, you only think about stuff on the surface. And I was like, hell no, ain't no way him and Kobe is friends, because they got totally different personalities. But you got to remember, what you get from LeBron James is something on TV. That's the personality you get, but you really don't know him like that. Kobe was telling this one story one time, like he's a funny ass dude. He makes everybody laugh and everybody wants to be around him and stuff like that. He's just this funny guy. And he was like that back in Orlando and stuff. I mean, not Orlando, Cleveland the first time. But since he went to Miami, we know him as this villain because he did it wrong. But he only did it wrong because the media let him do it wrong. The NBA let him do it wrong. That's all they had. So yeah, him and Kobe were really good friends. Like I say, all this stuff where he didn't go to the funeral, he didn't do this, blah, blah, it's just to piss people off. He's playing a character. That's how they making money off of people's, I won't say stupidity, but people don't understand reality. That's what I'm trying to say. But let's look at this schedule. So the first game they played Golden State, and then they played Minnesota, then the Lakers, then they played Sacramento, Portland, Minnesota again. Who is Memphis, the Heat, Portland, the Spurs, Atlanta, Charlotte, OKC, New Orleans, Milwaukee, Utah, Clippers, Denver, New Orleans, Phoenix, Toronto, Boston, 76ers, Utah, Clippers, Phoenix, Houston. It's just the same thing going down the line. So look at this. They played Golden State at home. They played Minnesota at home. I'm going from the first one. Sacramento on the road. Portland back at home. Minnesota at Minnesota. Memphis at Memphis. Who is this? Miami at home. Portland at Portland. They don't seem to be going too far, right? San Antonio at home. Then they do go to Atlanta at Atlanta. Charlotte at Charlotte. OKC at OKC. Who is this? New Orleans at New Orleans. Milwaukee at Milwaukee. Who is it? Utah at home. And then they go to Utah, which is close. Play LA at home. Play Dallas at home. Play New Orleans at home. Play Phoenix at home. Go to Toronto. Go to Boston. Go to Philly. This schedule is pretty weak. So we start from the beginning, right? They're most likely going to beat Golden State, right? They're going to. Who knows with Minnesota? Okay, Luke is supposed to be back, prime, ready to go. So, whatever. I think they're going to beat Sacramento. They're going to beat Portland. We'll see with Minnesota. They're going to beat Memphis. They're going to beat Miami. Then they're going to beat Portland. I think they're going to beat San Antonio. Then they're going to beat Atlanta. Then they're going to beat Charlotte. Probably get beat by OKC. Then they're going to beat New Orleans. I think they'll beat Milwaukee. Milwaukee's old, beat up. Then they're going to beat Utah. They're going to beat Utah again. What are you going to say about the Clippers? I think they're going to beat the Clippers. They're all broken up, washed up. Dallas, it'll be a good one. New Orleans are going to beat New Orleans. Phoenix, they're going to beat Phoenix. I think they should beat Toronto. They should beat Boston. Boston is all broken up. Who knows? Joel Embiid might not even show up. They're going to beat the Sixers. They're going to beat Utah. They're going to beat the Clippers. They're going to beat Phoenix. We'll see about Houston, but I think, Kevin Durant going to come over there and mess everything up. Probably beat Houston. So they're just like beating, I don't know. On here, it looks like they're beating 4 out of 5 teams. That's what it looks like. They're just playing a bunch of nobodies. And then, once in a while, they'll play somebody. It's just nobody on their schedule. They don't play Denver until January 20th. That's the first time they played Denver. Now, I ain't trying to say they're a world beater team, but that's the first time they played Denver. They just playing a whole bunch of... And we already know the Eastern Conference is busted up and broke. So, look at this. So So when you look at this schedule, the first game they play on October 21st, and then they play on the 24th. Then they play again on the 26th, 27th, 29th, 30th. Now we're in November. No, they play on the 29th and 31st of October. Then we go into, what is this, November 2nd, and then they play on the 3rd. Then they play on the 5th. Then they play on the 8th. Then they play on the 10th. Then they play on the 12th. Then they play on the 14th, the 15th, the 18th, the 23rd, the 25th, the 28th, the 30th, the 1st, the 4th, the 5th. Now we're in the 12th month. What is this? Yeah, they play on the 5th, and then the 7th. Then they're going to play all the way until the 18th, and then the 20th, and then the 23rd, then the 25th, then the 28th, then 30, then January 1st, play on the 2nd, the 4th, then they play on the 6th, the 7th, the 9th, the 12th, the 13th, the 15th, the 17th, the 18th, and it just continues like that. I got them on like 12 back-to-backs. And a lot of times they only get one day off between rests if you look at the schedule. So what I'm trying to say is, I don't think a 40, 41-year-old LeBron James is going to make it through this season. We remember last season, the season before, a lot of times it was crazy. They'll have like 3 days off, and then they'll play a game, and then they'll have another 3 days off. Sometimes they'll have like 4 days off, play 2 games, have another 4 days off. That's over. It ain't happening. Those days are over. I saw 2 days off a couple times on that schedule. That's it. And I saw 3 days off maybe like once on the schedule. But most of them is 1 day off, and a lot of them are back-to-backs. No way this guy's making it through the schedule. So what's going to happen is, like I said in the beginning, I thought maybe the Cavs would have a more favorable schedule, but they got the same schedule. But they play in the East, where it's really weak. So I was thinking, well, maybe they trade LeBron James before the season starts. He goes over there. We heard about that. If he doesn't get traded to the Cavs, check it out. He ain't going to make it through the season. So he's going to low manage, miss these games, and put it on Luka. So if they end up fizzling out, losing, whatever like that, it's going to be on Luka's back. Yeah. Or he's going to fake an injury and put it on Luka's back. There's no way he gets through this season. Not because of the competition. The competition is weak, it's soft, it's frail, it's whatever. Even in the West, it's weak. The East is weak. The competition is weak. They're just, come on, man. They could at least give these guys, like, you're playing the good teams, 2 times in 1 week. You're playing all these bad teams. And a lot of times you're playing them at home, wherever you're playing them. I just don't see no great competition on the schedule as far as, it being a competitive schedule. What I see is this guy's going to run out of gas. He's already going to know it. So I think it's going to be, oh, what y'all expect, man? The man's 41, man. What you want him to play every game? Watch what's going to happen. Yep. So again, don't look for this guy to play close to every game, or he's going to fake an injury. He ain't getting through that schedule. Too many back-to-backs and too many 1 day off in the schedule. Too many. Because if he plays a lot of games in this schedule, guess what? They're going to lose a lot. Because what he's going to be doing, he's going to be resting on the court. And all these new guys that they don't brought in, they're going to get the blame. Oh, man, why they didn't step up, man? Look at 8, he ain't doing nothing. This dude ain't doing this. And, everybody going to get the heat. Everybody going to get the blame for him being 41 years old and him being on that court, walking around doing nothing. Yeah. They're going to lose. They're going to lose. They're going to lose. So, I don't know. Tell me what you think.